welcome to a new video, and I am so excited about this one because in this video I am going to be reviewing my most anticipated book release of 2021, which is this one, Whereabouts by Jhumpa Lahiri. I am just so psyched to actually have this book in my hand and that I have read it and I have like inhaled it and I have highlighted it and I have thoughts, and I'm here to tell you about my thoughts. But first, I do have to say that this review might be very biased because I am in love with her. I think that she is a brilliant writer and can do absolutely no wrong because I have just fallen in love with all of her books that she's written. So for anyone who doesn't know who Jhumpa Lahiri is, let me just give you a brief like sort of intro, I think. So Jhumpa Lahiri, or Nilanjana Sudeshna Lahiri, was born on 11th of July, I think, 1967. Let me see if that is right. Yes, I am right, like 67, yes. And she wrote this book called The Interpreter of Maladies, which won her the Pulitzer, and it was her debut novel, which was a collection of short stories, and that is how I got introduced to her, because I was like, how can a collection of short stories win a Pulitzer? Like, are you sure? And then I read it and then I knew, okay. And then after that I read mostly all of her other books and loved all of them. I think Unaccustomed Earth is one of my favorites. Of course, everyone knows of Namesake because it was made into a very famous movie that also is just amazing. If you want me to do like a little bit on like how to read Jhumpa Lahiri or something like that, if that's a video that intrigues you, then let me know because I have lots to say. Anyway, so yeah, this is her new book. So she has now basically moved to Italy because she was very fascinated by the country and the language. So she now lives there. And she now primarily just writes in Italian. So she basically learned a new language and now primarily writes in it. But this is obviously not in Italian. This was another Italian name here, and it released in 2018, and she then translated this now to English for the rest of us to kind of read in 2021. So exciting times, and now I'm going to tell you what this book is about. The book itself is told from the perspective of a 45-year-old woman in Italy, in an unknown city, we think probably Rome, but she is single and a professor of a kind, so perhaps this is like a version of herself, or perhaps someone who she knows. Jhumpa Lahiri is who I'm speaking of, and essentially we get to hear of like these vignettes of her life, and of her musings, of her looking at things around her, and telling us about it, or just giving us her reactions to things, or perhaps even like ruminating and thinking about the past, and about her relationship with her mother or her father or some of her exes, and it's just very simply done. And before I move forward, I just want to read out this one page to you so that you get an understanding of exactly what I have been saying and what I will be saying. It'll just be easier that way, and I just think that it's really poignant the way that she's written this. So this part is called At the Trattoria, and a trattoria is a restaurant from what I have googled and understood. I often have lunch at a trattoria close to my house. It is a hole in the wall, so if I don't get there by noon, I won't get a seat and I'll have to wait until after 2. I eat alone next to others eating alone. There are people I don't know, though I frequently encounter a familiar face. A father cooks and his daughter waits the tables. I believe the mother died when the daughter was a young girl. This father and daughter share a bond beyond their common blood, one that's been fortified by grief. They are not from around here. Though they work all day on a noisy street, they come from an island. They store the sun's blaze in their bones, barren hills dotted with sheep, and mistral that churns the sea. I picture them together on a boat they've anchored in front of a secluded grotto. I see the daughter diving off the prow and the father holding a fish that's still breathing in his hands. Do you get what I mean? This is the imagery that I am talking about. She just does such a brilliant job of bringing the mundane to life, or of bringing these images into your brain, where it almost feels like you're sitting with her at this restaurant and she's whispering these details to you. But at the same point of time, she doesn't like overtly describe them. So you kind of have like your own version of them as well. So for example, she never told you what the father and the daughter look like. So in my head, I've imagined them separately, and that is different for me, but it could be different for you, the way you imagine the father and daughter. And that just makes it so intimate in my eyes, where it's like our own version of things. And I just loved that about this book. And as I said, she speaks about these mundane sort of things that are happening in her life. But through those instances and through her revelations to herself, or just thoughts to herself, we get all of these different truth bombs that are dropped on us, which just really made me just sit back and like think. And these could be philosophical, it could be factual, it could be trivial. But why I think that this book especially hit home for me, especially during this time, was because one of the overarching sort of themes of this book was solitude and loneliness and aging and friendships. But like the most important one was solitude, and how people, it's not something that like people should avoid, but it's something that she herself really like rejoices in, and that she finds comfort in, and that's become me of sorts. So I really like saw myself in her, where yeah, just a lot of things that she said just really spoke to me. And here is one of the things that I really like, which she said about solitude, where she said, "Solitude is become my trade. As it requires a certain discipline, it's a condition I try to perfect, and yet it plagues me. It weighs on me in spite of my knowing it so well." So that's what this book is. It's essentially a series of disjointed events which are connected through a very flimsy thread of sorts. So yes, there are parts of it that go in sort of chronological order, but there really isn't a plot per se. It's really just a string of consciousness that is written beautifully. As I have said before, I think Jhumpa Lahiri is just a stunning writer. She writes so simply, yet it's so poignant. And I just want to read out a couple of things that I think just really like, I made a mark of it, and I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. "The woman keeps looking at me as if there were a screen between us, as if I were a person on television. The biting words pierce the air as if physically puncturing it, seeping into the blue of the sky, blackening it." And I could go on, but I feel like I would then just like read out the entire book to you, and that's not a good idea. So onto the ratings, I feel like I gave this a 4.75, but let's face it, it's a 5. I love it. The reason why I would probably like drop it down a notch is because I felt like the ending was a little abrupt, and I just wanted more. I just wanted more of it. I was like, 160 pages is not enough. So if you are looking to read this book, then read it for its beautiful prose, read it for a source of comfort, for its ability to take you places, and for it to put you in another person's mind. It is a simply written book, though there were words that I myself had to Google as well, but Google is your friend. It doesn't take too long, and it was quite easy to go through. Do not read this book if you are looking for a book that has a strict plot or like well-defined characters. It is not that. It is very anecdotal. It has vignettes to a person's life, and that's about it. That's all you're gonna get. So that's it in terms of my review. If you have any other questions about this book, or anything at all, then do let me know. Let me know what you thought of this book, if you've read it, if you plan to read this now, and if you want me to review any other book, then let me know in the comments down below, and just generally leave me some love or happiness, you know. But till then, stay safe, stay sane, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!